Can everybody hear me? Leslie, can you hear me? Leslie?
Hi, I can. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me? Well, I'm going to go ahead and knock, knock, bang, bang. Call the meeting of the Bloomington City Council to order. Madam, and we start first of all with the Pledge of Allegiance. And if we could start with that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all. Now, if we could have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Matthey.
Here.
Councilmember Bolin.
Here.
Councilmember Mwambwe.
Here.
Councilmember Julie Emig.
Here.
Councilmember Painter.
Here.
Mayor Renner.
Here.
Councilmember Carrillo.
Here.
Councilmember Black.
Here.
Councilmember Crable.
Here.
Councilmember Bray.
Here.
Thank you very much. Well, yeah, we do have a quorum, and we are going to start with public comment. We have received some public comment through email, but as I understand from our clerk, we have 2 people who have registered for public comment. And if you'll go ahead and start with the first name, if we have them online. Madam Clerk.
Yes, the first person who registered is Robert Garcia. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. First, I want to thank you for your service. Your leadership during these difficult times is needed now more than ever. This is certainly not a time for business as usual. We must recognize that we are living in a time of crisis, and our decision-making must adjust accordingly to this reality. So to that end, I appreciate that everyone is putting politics aside, and we're all working together to do the right thing for the people of Bloomington. The people, they're counting on you now more than ever. They're watching, they're reading. You have a captive audience of people in need, and they are scared, understandably so. But more than anything, we're counting on you today. Our city has spent years preparing for a crisis by developing its emergency reserves for a time of urgent need. We must confront reality. That time is now. Our community is in crisis. We have too many people without work or income, struggling to survive this recession, struggling to find basic food and supplies for their families. I want to say that again because I understand that if it's not you, if it's not your own experience, it's very easy to underestimate the level of hurt being experienced by some of our community members and neighbors today. We have families who, for the first time ever, are struggling to even source enough food to feed their families every week. I know this because of my involvement in the community. I'm the founder of McLean County Cares. I'm a community navigator with the Immigration Project. I serve on the board of directors for the Urban 100. I'm one of the volunteer leads for the McLean County COVID-19 Mutual Aid team, and I serve in many, many other grassroots and community organizations as a full-time volunteer. I say all that only to make this important point. I've spent the past several weeks listening to my neighbors who are hurting, answering phone calls, text messages, emails, and social media messages. And while I cannot go into specifics out of respect for the people we serve, I can say this. The themes are the same. Hardworking people in our community are in shock. They have never not been able to provide for their families. They never expected this could happen to them. This is what I hear again and again. Good, hardworking families who have never had to ask for help, proud families who always made ends meet, are suddenly left hurting and in shock. The fact is, our local community organizations, nonprofits, and outreach groups simply cannot meet and support the growing demand in our community. It is time to do the right thing now and meet the urgent needs of our community. Please vote to use emergency reserves to provide direct aid to those in need, our neighbors, our citizens who have been hit the hardest during this trying time. Lastly, I'll say this. The Bible says that the Lord will come to us in the form of those in need. And it is up to us to answer him. Do we reject him and turn him away, or do we respond with the urgent love and aid that is warranted? Thank you again for your leadership. We're watching now more than ever, and we're counting on you. Please do the right thing for the people of Bloomington. Over the weekend, I sent you additional details. My time is up. I thank you for listening. God bless.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, I believe there's one more person who's called in. Is that correct? Madam
Yes,
Clerk?
that's correct. The next one up is Stan Nord. Stan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks, Dan. Go ahead.
Okay. Mayor and Council, thank you very much for your time. I had hoped to address you all face to face, though in light of the social distancing procedures, over the phone is going to have to do. Your positions are thankless. Often people only come to speak to you when they have concerns or complaints, and this is understandable. Most people go along with their life until something government does affects them, and it affects them enough for them to schedule their time and take effort to reach out and let their voice and opinion be heard. Well, I wanted to take some time to point out some of the good things Bloomington has done. There have been a lot of successes recently, which I believe the taxpayers of Bloomington should recognize. They should be proud of their elected leaders and town staff who have made these things happen. Here are a few of these specific successes. You saved a bus stop from moving nearly half a mile away from many disabled and wheelchair-bound residents who live in the normal Normal's Orlando Northbrook area. Your efforts saved this bus service for people who live outside of your city. The elimination of the pension spiking. It had been a problem for a long time. It is no longer a problem in Bloomington. Another, the merging of the public works and water departments. This received national recognition. No layoffs, and it saves taxpayers $250,000 a year. Another, bringing in the legal department in-house. This saves your taxpayers $200,000 per year. Another, speaking soundly about the fiscal challenges of affording a $40 million plus sports complex. These few examples will save your community members well over $1 million a year in perpetuity. I'm sure there are other examples equally deserving of recognition. As you find additional creative ways to offer the same quality of service more efficiently, the annual savings will continue to grow and your taxpayers will benefit. One success that is not measured financially, but I would argue is a more important success, is during this pandemic, you have gone through great effort to ensure the democratic process is not sacrificed. You have chosen to limit or not use the mayor's ability to create unilateral emergency orders. Emergency orders have the full force and effect of law. If only one elected official has the ability to put laws on the books, then they have been given the ability to bypass the representative government process, a process which so many of our forefathers and mothers gave up their own lives to protect. You have chosen to keep the democratic process alive and shared among the council as a whole. There are many communities, extremely close and far away, who have given up their democratic process by choice or pretense. Bloomington citizens should recognize and be proud that their leaders found a way to keep the democratic process alive locally during this pandemic. So my hat is off to the staff and elected officials who have made all these great things happen. What you are all doing in Bloomington is noticed well beyond the city line. Other communities and their elected leaders are taking note, and I expect some will try and emulate some of your successes. You are showing the country that government can address problems which have festered for decades and that it is possible for government to be more efficient.
Thank
I'm
you.
almost done.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You have exceeded your 3 minutes. I'm sorry, Stan.
Okay, well, thank you for what you do. And
Very much appreciate all your work too. Thank you, Stan. And Madam Clerk, at this point, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Are there any items?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any items that we want to have that any of the council members would like?
One second, sorry,
Uh,
Mayor, excuse me, sorry. If we could, for just a second. One of the things that we also made available for public comment was that individuals could email their public comments in.
oh, right, that's right. you
And
were-
with that said,
Sorry.
with that said, all of the public comments have been forwarded on to council. And now I will read the names of the emails that we received. They were received from Matthew Sims, Robert Garcia, Noah Tang, Veronica Torres Luna, Creighton Satan White, Sunny Garcia, Alita Diggins, Matt Tosco, Janice Brown, Joseph Kennedy, Dave Kobus, Tammy Mance, Maggie McAvoy, Christopher Haynes, and Louis Gooseland.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And thank you for reminding me of that before I started to move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that any members of the council would like to have pulled? And I first start with Alderman Matthey.
7D, please.
7D as a dog. I'm sorry, was that correct? And let's see, we also have a Councilmember Enid.
Yes, 7N as in Nancy.
7N, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And that's all I see, okay? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of item 7D, as in dog, as pulled by Councilmember Matthey, and 7N as in Nancy, as pulled by Councilmember Emick?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Carrillo. Is there a second?
Second.
By our second Councilmember Milawamboy. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Matthey,
Yes.
Councilmember Boland,
Yes.
Councilmember Milwambwe,
Yes.
Councilmember Emig,
Yes.
Councilmember Painter,
Yes.
Councilmember Painter,
Yes.
Councilmember Carrillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Black,
Yes.
Councilmember Crable,
Yes.
Councilmember Bray.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. The motion carries unanimously. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. And if we could go to Councilmember Matthey, who pulled item 7D. Jamie?
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate that. So I don't know, and I apologize for pulling this last minute. I was doing some research on this. Item 7D is for wireless access points that will help us in terms of reading the water meters that we have around the city. And this is something that I have advocated for in the past. But I was doing some research this afternoon, and I guess I came up against a question that I can't figure out, even from Neptune's own website, what frequencies this wireless gateway actually uses. And I was trying to see if it was, there's a number of accepted frequencies, and including some that are reserved for municipal and government use in terms of wireless access. And I can't find any information on these Neptunes in terms of what frequencies they use. And my concern with not knowing what frequencies they use is I don't want to get us into a situation where we're vendor locked, where we can't, we're stuck with one vendor permanently and we have no solution and no way out of that, especially given the price of these outdoor wireless collectors. So I don't actually know a good way to, Tim, if you might have any information on that, or Kevin, or if this is something that we need to table to try to get some more information from the vendor in terms of how they're going to handle this, because this wireless installation is quite a bit more expensive than I was hoping it was going to be. So I guess that's where my question is at right now.
So turn to our city manager and or possibly Kevin Cothe, but Tim, you want to start?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. That actually, Alderman Matthey, I'm not sure what the answer to that is, but I'm going to talk across, across the airwaves here to Kevin Cothe and ask Kevin, one, if you're aware, and Kevin, if you're not aware, are there any negative impacts to table that, get council an answer, and then put this back on the agenda for April 27th? Kevin?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to the frequency question. I do know that it is a package that Neptune meters, we've used those meters for years, and the gateways are compatible with the meter technology we use today. And that, right now the wireless reads are done by a drive-by. This fixed point system will allow the collection of meter reads without having to have somebody out in the field. We can collect the readings once a day or twice a day or however often we would like to the fixed point system. So the system goes hand in hand with the Neptune meters we have and the receivers that we're looking to buy.
Kevin, is it your understanding that the only wireless receivers that can read these meters are the ones from Neptune? I mean, are you saying we're already vendor locked at this point?
We are to a degree, because the software for reading the registers and inputting that into our utility billing system is all set up with the Neptune system. If we would go to another vendor like a Badger meter or something like that, we would have to have their software and their system, because each vendor tends to have their own software and reading capabilities.
Okay. I guess I would like to confirm that, because I mean, our goal is to roll these out all across the community, right? And to have it so that we spend fewer man hours and we deliver better service to our customers. And, I don't like the idea of the only way to talk to these, because then it becomes a self-fulfilling circle that we can only use Neptune because we only have Neptune wireless, and we can only use Neptune wireless because we can only have Neptune meters. And that's the kind of negative circle that I would like to see us avoid if possible. So,
I'm sorry, Jamie.
I was gonna say, based on just wanting to get a little bit more information, I would actually like to make a motion that we table this until our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay. Is there a second to that? Is there a Alderman Milwamwe, do you have your hand up?
No, it's me.
Oh,
I'll second it.
okay. Second by Councilmember Carrillo. Kevin, one question that probably all of us have, that if we could follow, is there a difficulty, first of all, if we were to postpone this for 2 weeks?
No, as long as it's acted on at the next meeting, I think we'll be fine.
Okay. Is there anything in particular, well, I guess I have a question here, and that is, is it the case that we're vendor locked irrespective of which vendor we go with?
I think we are, from the standpoint that the meter reading system and the meters all go hand in hand. And we've used Neptune, for the last 30 years that I've been with the city. And obviously the technology has changed over the years and improved, because when I first started with the city, we read meters with meter readers and had no electronic capability. And then we got where we could read the meter from the side of the house. And then we switched to the radio reads, which greatly improved efficiency. And we went from 3 or 4 meter readers down to 1. And with this type of system, we can get even better service for our citizens by being able to read meters and detect leaks and just provide better service to our citizens using this technology.
Okay. And then Jamie, if you could clarify, what would you like to know in the next 2 weeks?
So I'd like to know if there's a way to use non-proprietary wireless to read the same meters, right? So the connectivity on what we're talking about is last mile connectivity to get from the houses back onto kind of the public internet, and then from there into the water department and our software. And if we can use non-proprietary wireless frequencies like 802.11n or AC or whatever it might be to do the same thing, I guess this, in my mind, this goes a little bit hand in hand with my proposal that we've still been working through for smart street lighting. One of the options with the smart street lighting program was the ability to put wireless internet access on every street light throughout Bloomington Normal. And if we can do that, if we can read the meters using non-proprietary frequencies, we could potentially save hundreds of thousands of dollars based on the price of just doing one water tower right here.
Okay. Mr. Gleason, Tim?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to hit Deputy City Manager Tyus cold on this, but I think you were involved in this discussion some. Billy, do you have any additional comments?
I don't know that this gets exactly to your question, and we may still need to do a little bit of research, but some of Kevin's guys had sent an email a while back to this question, and I'm going to read a part of it if you don't mind, just to see if this gets to the question you're asking. We had asked whether or not the equipment was proprietary, excuse me, and the answer was that the meters send a wireless signal to the gateway. The gateway then uploads the meter readings via wireless connection to Neptune's host site, excuse me. It says we can use the city's network if available, or cellular data to connect to Neptune's host site. It would be proprietary only in the sense that we're only sending meter readings from the gateways. But what it says is that we can utilize other networks to transport information. Now, I'm a little out of my league as it relates to some of the technology here, but I don't know if maybe that gets to the question you were asking or not.
Jamie, if we could, does that get to your question, Jamie?
Yeah, I think what it's saying is we're already screwed. Is the basic part of it, because it doesn't actually answer the question, but it implies that they're using a proprietary frequency from the water meters to the gateways. And then how we get from the gateway onto the public internet, they're giving us some options, i.e. we can connect to the public, if we have Wi-Fi, we can use that. Or if we don't have Wi-Fi, we can use cellular. I guess I still would like to table this and get confirmation on that before I make assumptions on how it's working. And then if we can get one way or the other, we can make a decision for next meeting.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Let's see, it looks like I have Councilmember Milwaukee wants to speak on this. Is that correct? Moka?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess I just wanted to ask, and I'm very similar to Billy, is that I'm a little bit out of my league when it comes to this kind of technology. But so what I'd like to know is, what do we do in 2 weeks then if we find out one way or another? Is the answer to that question going to be make us go in a different direction than we would today.
Maybe we can go back to Alderman Matthey. Did you want to start with that? And then did you go to Mr. Gleason or Kevin?
So that's a great question, Mboka. What I would say is that if there is a less expensive, if we're not vendor locked in here, then we potentially have a less expensive alternate to accomplish the exact same thing, which is a test of this wireless system without spending, $100,000 on wireless gear that is we're only going to be able to use for this one purpose. Whereas if we can read these with a non-vendor, there might be options from other vendors where we can read these using wireless antennas that also allow us to do additional things such as, communicate with public works vehicles, fire vehicles, police vehicles, things of that nature. So a multi-purpose solution as opposed to a single cast solution.
Now, I wonder if, Kevin, do you understand the question so that we know what is, if this motion were to pass, that what would be necessary to get in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, there's several different thoughts going on there, and Councilmember Matthey, I think that I've been looking at some text going back and forth. It's 900 megahertz is the frequency, and that's a public frequency, but it's the data, the way it's transmitted is in a proprietary fashion. So even though it may be a public frequency, it's encoded. And so those, receivers have to get the information, then transmit it back to the city Neptune servers. And that can be over our existing network that is fiber or wireless, as you said. But the radio receivers work with these meters.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there anyone else?
Based on that information, Mayor, I'm actually going to withdraw my motion then, because that's the confirmation that we're already vendor locked, and making the switch now is going to actually cost probably way more money than we're interested in talking about.
Okay, so you're withdrawing your motion. Is the seconder of the motion okay with the withdrawal? Councilmember Carrillo?
You can see me, but you can't see me. Yes, I'm good with it.
Okay. All right. At this point, then, we have a motion to approve this as presented.
I'll move that we approve 7D as presented.
Moved by Councilmember Matthey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Black, because I see him on the screen. So, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes.
Councilmember Bolin,
Yes.
Councilmember Milwambwe,
Yes.
Councilmember Painter,
Yes.
Councilmember Carrillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Black,
Yes.
Councilmember Crable,
Yes.
Councilmember Bray.
Yes.
Thank you very much. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Motion carries. And I'm going to move to item 7N, and that was pulled by Councilmember Emig. Julie?
Yes. Yes. The only reason I pulled it is because I serve on the Ecology Action Center board, so I need to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay.
So I shall do so as effectively as possible in this medium.
Just mute yourself right now, and then we'll come back on in a minute. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Is there a motion to approve item 7N as in Nancy? Moved by, it looks like Councilmember Bray. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Painter. I see the hands up. And any discussion on this? Councilmember Bray, did you want to discuss? No. Okay. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll then?
Councilmember Matthey,
Yes.
Councilmember Bolin,
Yes.
Councilmember Milwambwe,
Yes.
Councilmember Emig.
Oh, she's recused
Oh,
herself.
she's recused. I'm sorry. Councilmember Painter,
Yes.
Councilmember Carrillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Black,
Yes.
Councilmember Crable,
Yes.
Councilmember Bray.
Yes.
Great. The motion carries. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. And Julie, if you don't, well, you're back on, Julie. We're done. We move to items 8A, and that's on our regular agenda, is consideration and potential action regarding ordinance 2020-18, an ordinance declaring a local emergency due to the COVID virus and enacting various emergency measures, including consideration of an ordinance amending ordinance 2020-18 to add liquor club license to section 2N as requested by the legal department. And we're going to go ahead and start with a brief presentation by Mr. Gleason, our city manager, and then we will have a brief council discussion following that presentation. Mr. Gleason.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This quite simply is adding private clubs to the packaged liquor that's already in place. It will allow for curbside pickup and also delivery. Private clubs came to us after the other order was approved and asked if they could be included because they've got stock sitting on their shelves that they're not able to sell because of the stay-at-home order. That's all it is, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Is there well, let me ask, are there any questions or is there a motion on this particular item? Councilmember Matthey, I see your hand up.
So I just had a question. Are we talking private clubs like VFW, Eagles? Is that the kind of clubs we're talking about, or?
Yes, those are the ones who've been into contact with us. Yes.
Okay, that was my question. I just want to make sure I knew exactly which organizations we were talking about.
Exactly. Councilmember Boland.
I'd like to make a motion to pass as presented.
Thank you.
I'll second it. I'll second.
Okay, so a motion made by Councilmember Boland, second by Councilmember Matthey. Councilmember Carrillo, did you have your hand up? Did you want to speak?
Yes, I have a question about so I have been in contact with a number of the different tobacco shops in town that have inquired about like why they aren't being included in the curbside pickup services, among other downtown businesses particularly. So just curious about what the reasoning has been behind that. If we could just take this moment to shed some light on that and see, yeah, I just want to understand the reasoning behind that because I've gotten a lot of questions. Yes,
thank you, Councilmember Carrillo. And then I think we probably all have as well. Certainly I have. And in fact, and then if Mr. Juergens is on the line, he can clarify this, or perhaps Mr. Gleason. The legal interpretation is that this is curbside service would only be for essential services. And according to DECA at the state level, the vapor or tobacco products are not an essential service. Is that correct? Either Mr. Gleason or Mr. Juergens, if you're there online.
Yes, you're correct. And that department has also said that if you're not an essential business, you cannot do curbside pickup or delivery. The only thing you can do if you're a non-essential business is maintain kind of the payroll and those types of things. So for businesses that are non-essential, there are just unfortunately those restrictions that are out there.
And just to clarify, Mr. Juergens, in spite of the fact that we're a home rule community, we're still a creature of the state. Is that correct? And so we don't really have the option to go against what the state tells us. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Councilmember Carrillo, do you have any follow-up?
That was my follow-up. Thank you for asking it, Mayor Renner.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, Councilmember Matthey, you have your hand up.
No, that was an accident.
Oh, okay. Is there a motion then to, do we get a motion? We got a motion to approve in second. I'm sorry. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, and before I do, Mayor Renner, if we could just clarify, it was Councilmember Boland and Councilmember Crable had the second. I think we said Matthew.
Councilmember Boland and Matthew, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Jamie, were you the seconder?
No, it was Jeff.
It was Jeff? Okay, I'm sorry. I usually write these things down, but I did not write this down.
No problem. All right, so calling the roll, Councilmember Matthew,
Yes.
Councilmember Boland,
Yes.
Councilmember Mwambwe,
Yes.
Councilmember Painter,
Yes.
Councilmember Carrillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Black,
Yes.
Councilmember Crable,
Yes.
Councilmember Bray.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried.
No.
Did I
You haven't, you missed, you
Did I miss
missed
email?
Julie. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm just winning at this thing today. Councilmember Emig, I'm sorry.
That's fine. Yes.
Thank you.
good. Well, so the motion does carry 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. At this point, we go to our city manager's discussion. Mr. Gleason.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The first item is the slide that we're sharing, just like if you were at the dais right now, have been leading off and will continue to talking about the census. There's some pretty neat sayings out there. Since everybody's shelter in place, go ahead and log in, take care of the census. It is a critical document. We've talked about that. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's one that we as a community definitely need to be counted. So this is the second item, the downtown Bloomington Farmers Market. Melissa Hahn, the economic development director, and her staff have put this in place. It was deemed an essential function under the governor's executive order, and they are taking online orders. When she reported this morning at the director's staff meeting, she was saying that we already have over $10,000 in sales. So the farmers have come out to try to sell their product, and the community's definitely responded in wanting to purchase. Some additional items. It's been a few weeks since we've met, and there's so much that we could talk about. So much of it centers obviously around COVID-19. Some of the things as staff, it's our charge to try to keep the community informed. Also the elected officials, which is why we have improved our city's website. And for those in the community, I would encourage you guys to take a look at all the resources that are available. It's a quick and easy find. You're not going to have to wander around and figure out what those resources are. And in a lot of cases, we're just collecting the information that's already out there. And as far as the elected officials, you guys, we know that your constituents are reaching out in this time of crisis, in some cases panic, some cases just simple questions, how do I do this or how do I do that? And it's an important role of city staff, either us communicating or communicating through the elected, is just trying to make sure that we can make that connectivity. If there's a question out there or a need, there are a number of things that are being stood up locally, not suggesting that it covers everything, but that is definitely in place, and that's a number one priority for us. Communication, I guess, is what I'm saying. As far as just taking a pulse on the employees themselves for this great organization, I think in some of the public comment, it was mentioned about how we are a leader, and that's true. When we have individual departments that have their groups that they work with, peers throughout the state, and we really are looked to as how we're doing certain things. The employee base is doing an excellent job for us. We're nearly 100% functional. Obviously, some things have closed. Get questions about golf all the time. Those are questions that we have no control over, or that's an issue that we have no control over. That was something that we double checked, if not triple checked, the executive order, because we know some other communities are doing this. We have no COVID positives as far as our employee base. We do have some individuals, some employees that are quarantined, just taking that extra precautionary measure. You know, up to this point, we've been very fortunate with some of the actions that we've taken, where the extra precautionary steps were done to, you know, for the safety of our employee and their families when they go home, but also in a worst case scenario to preserve the workforce. So things are going well. The next meeting on, well, next Monday on April 20th is the Committee of the Whole meeting. We're down the home stretch of FY21. And for the community that may not be aware, we're on a fiscal year that runs from May 1st to April 30th. And what we will be doing at the Committee of the Whole is talking about FY21. Obviously, the COVID-19 impacts, where overall our forecast, obviously we don't have a crystal ball, but what we know today, what we know of some of the revenues that have been suspended, you know, that's the kind of discussion that we're going to have. And then hopefully council will be ready to adopt this in a special meeting on Wednesday, April 22nd. That's one thing also to share. I know I myself and others on the senior staff, you know, we're looking at councils throughout the state, if not the region. We're looking at budgets throughout the state and the region, trying to see how people are approaching these. We have enterprise funds that preserve the revenues in that are not really impacted by COVID-19. And we don't think that they will be long-term. And that's how a number of our capital projects are being funded. Much like many of the consent items fell underwater this evening that council acted on. So I'm not going to say we're in a great position. Not going to say that things couldn't change. But for right now, we are in a decent position. And I think also one of the comments earlier under public comment, it is thanks to this council, past council, that has put us in a position that, you know, we will get beyond COVID-19 and always searching for opportunities in this as well. Continue to be in contact quite a bit with the county administrator, Camille Rodriguez. You know, when we're talking about a pandemic or a crisis like this, county runs the lead. I know Camille is relatively new at the county. She's probably approaching a year in the position, but she has hit the ground running and has been a great resource and somebody that I communicate with on a regular basis, as well as the town of Normal with Pam Reese. Also talking to the EDC and the Chamber of Commerce and using our economic development folks with Melissa Hahn to try to outreach to the businesses in the community. And going back to the communication and the connectivity comment, you know, that's very much, you know, in the forefront when we're talking to business. I want to have that unified message, all these entities that are out there, you know, trying to do as much as we can for the business community. But let's be on the same script, if you will, and that is in play. The Committee of the Whole next week will also include discussion on our property and liability insurance renewal. It will be a presentation by our consultant, Mike Nugent, and it's that time of year for us to talk about, to have a public discussion about this. And then that will be an April 27th agenda item. So with that said, you know, I just, you know, the elected know this, but for the community, you know, wishing everybody, you know, stay safe and stay healthy. And we will we will get beyond this inconvenience of COVID-19. And there are opportunities along the way that we're exploring. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gleason. I appreciate that. I would just like to thank the council for participating in this unusual format as we go forward, and then to thank Mr. Gleason, our city clerk, Mr. Sprawls, and others in the staff for making this happen. But I'd also like to thank all of you for continuing to make sure that our public services are effectively delivered. And you know, I see it every day. I'm in City Hall at least twice a day now. My regular routine is to go to City Hall, then Illinois Wesleyan, where there's nobody there. It's a ghost town, but I can communicate with students, and then I come back to City Hall. But it's just amazing how our cylinders keep firing, and I think it's a tribute to our staff, and they're very, 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 very pleased with that. But as we're continuing to, and we probably are still at the earlier stages, I hope I'm wrong, of the COVID-19 crisis, the thing that we have to realize is that for some people, it's more than an inconvenience. It's really, really a crisis in terms of employment, in terms of housing issues, in terms of food, in terms of healthcare. And those are the things that have constantly, something that I've been working with Mr. Gleason and our intergovernmental partners and our nonprofit partners on that. In fact, yesterday we had 30 community members on a conference call that Pani from United Way had organized and put together. And they are really reaching out and trying to coordinate on all of these fronts. And so those are the four things, again, employment, housing, food, health, and they're hitting our least advantaged citizens the hardest. And I think that we've got to recognize that as we move forward, and certainly getting involved, not just with the city, but also with working with our intergovernmental partners and the private sector is really critical as we move forward. I'd also like to point out that yesterday, and this happened, there was apparently a story in the Chicago Tribune today about the Second Press Easter celebration yesterday, or Easter service, excuse me, yesterday. And I was invited, I did go. It was very, very well handled. There were 3 people, all who were exercising good judgment in having a mask on and shepherding the cars into their spaces and then out. So it all worked fine. It did seem a little odd that we were basically just staring at a vacant garage in Corporate South, but it was definitely Easter and people were honking at appropriate times. But anyway, that did go well. Although, again, we don't know whether or not this is going to be something. This is probably not something that's a regular occurrence. We hope that by the next time that there's a major holiday service, that we'll be through this. But that's about all I have to say. Other than I hope we begin to continue to address these issues and work together on some positive solutions that other communities are pursuing in order to get through this crisis with the least amount of, frankly, human damage. Thank you. Aldermanic comments, or let's see. We have Councilmember Carrillo.
That's never that easy. So yeah, I just wanted to take a second to acknowledge the work of our staff who have been doing a tremendous job. And I told them that I'm going to be obnoxious about this, and every opportunity that I get, I'm going to thank them for the way that they have powered on as this crisis affects them personally and their families and their community. And they're still showing up in big ways for us. So really appreciative of that. Also just want to bring attention to, so I had a community council meeting scheduled for this Thursday, this past Thursday, and unfortunately technology was not our friend. So we had people on the line waiting. I was on the line waiting. We couldn't see each other. It was a mess. And so we are rescheduling that for this Thursday at 6 p.m. The event is on Facebook, and there you can find the link. And after spending some time on the phone with Zoom, I think that we are ready to go for this Thursday. So apologies to everybody who tried to get on and couldn't participate, but hopefully this Thursday will run smoothly. And then last thing, just a comment, at work we have been having a lot of conversations about the COVID crisis and have noticed that we use that word often in our conversations, and learned something interesting, which is that the word crisis comes from the Greek word krisis, which literally means the turning point in a disease, when a patient can get better or can get worse. So that's a critical, so like it's basically, for us as a society, when we're in a crisis, it means we're at a turning point, and either we're going to come out of things healthier and better or worse. And so I would encourage us to take that lens on as we think about what actions our city can take. We are in a critical point of decision making, and I want to see our community come out of this whole thing. I don't want to go back to normal. I want us to use this as an opportunity to improve on the good things that we were already doing. So thanks everybody for continuing to show up and do what you do.
Thank you, Councilmember Carrillo. Next, Councilmember Bray, and then Matthew. I see hands up.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to my colleagues for all the work you're doing. Thank you to our city manager and our deputy city manager. I think what I'm struck with at this time is just the incredible talent and treasure that we just have here among our city staff, as well as all the amazing resources that are available to our citizens within this fine community that is Bloomington. And in the work that I've done over 30 some years in my career as an attorney, working with catastrophe events and with governments and states and the federal government, I will just say this, that truly this is a catastrophe. And while it is challenging, I see that our community is addressing it in ways that show just great leadership, courage, and talent. And at the same time, I think that we're remembering to be intentional and careful, because when we take a look at federal grants and we look at state grants, there will be rules about how we administer those. And we will have roles and responsibilities that we will play. And then we will have accountability for how we take in and manage any federal grants or state grants. So I really look forward to gathering and gaining consensus with my city council members, recognizing that each of us might come at this issue with a different talent pool and information. And I really think we need everyone at the table working together in our 3-in-1s and having conversations before folks go off in one direction or another. I think that we would benefit, and I look forward to our committee of the whole on Monday. And again, our exercise of our 3-in-1s this week, and just to talk through, how we intentionally walk through our role and our responsibilities, and how we show leadership courage to have restraint or to move forward. So thank you, Mayor, and thank all of you for the work you're doing. And I look forward to our continued work together.
Thank you, Kim. Next, Councilmember Bray, and then Councilmember Milawamwe.
Am I Councilmember Bray now?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, not Councilmember. Councilmember Matthey, I'm sorry. Councilmember Matthey, and then Councilmember Milawamwe. Kim doesn't get a second vote. It's in Chicago.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a couple questions for Tim real quick. And they're questions I've gotten several times, and I just wanted to, I was hoping you could shed a little clarity on those. Question one is, we made the decision to push back the spring bulk waste pickup, and I wondered if you could talk about that a little bit. And then question two was, we got some public comment today asking about the parks, and if you could shed some clarity on what's going on with Parks and Recs and how we're handling those programs.
Thank you, Alderman Matthey. I know I've got Public Works Director Kothi on the line, but then also Jay Tetzloff, our Parks Director. I'll answer the Parks question first. it's one that, and hopefully this is the answer to the question that you're asking. While golf is not allowed under the executive order at the governor's level, parks can still be open. We have put up a fair amount of signage around the parks that ask for social distancing to be, applied, by everybody that's out there. So as far as still being able to enjoy the parks, yes, you can. If you got one or two people that are shooting hoops, at a basketball court, you can still do that. But a 5-on-5 game is something that if we get called, or if the police are out driving around, might stop and ask to disperse and turn that not into, the contact game that basketball can be, but maybe a game of horse or just a couple of people playing. But even the governor talks about how he wants people to get out and enjoy, as much as they can, but just definitely take the proper precaution now with a mask, and then also social distancing. The bulk waste pickup that typically would start on May 1st. We have moved that back to July 1st, but we've also opened the convenience center. Originally, when the executive order first came out, we didn't think that the convenience center would fall into the category of being an essential function. A fair amount of the community called, but that was the response at the time. We double checked. We were able to reopen and definitely getting quite a bit of use. Not sure on the decision to move back bulk waste July 1st. We just want to be able to do it safely, but then also to address this, and we push back 2 months. That could change, but hopefully we're beyond this, and July 1st we can get this taken care of.
Those were the answers I was looking for exactly. So thank you for that. I will say that I did take advantage of some warm weather over the weekend and got out on my bike because Lord knows I'm not running anywhere. And I did see signs on social distancing, even on the Constitution Trail on the far east side. So I do appreciate that those are up in regular intervals across the trail, and I've seen them in parks and in places like that as well. So thank you to whoever on staff did that. And I just want to voice my appreciation for staff communication as well. It's been every bit, if not, as good as, it might even actually be better right now than it was when before this all started. So I really appreciate everybody stepping up and making this city continue to work. So thank you.
Thank you. And Alderman Matthew, because I happen to live right on the Constitution Trail on the far east side, I can assure you, even right now, as my computer is pointed toward, and I'm looking at Constitution Trail and watching people use Constitution Trail with masks on. Not everybody, but they're taking precautions. But so thank you. And next we have, again, Alderman Milawamwe, and then Councilman Dean.
Okay, you always call me older woman. One of these days we're gonna have to settle that score. Well, I just wanted to take a brief moment as well to say thank you to not only the council members, but also to councils of years past. I think it is because of all the collective actions that we've taken over the years that we find ourselves in a position where we can meet this challenge and actually fare much better than other communities. I also want to take a moment to thank the staff led by Tim Gleason. I know he has quite a bit of experience with disaster management, and I feel that we're pretty fortunate to have him at a time like this. And I have seen very little difference in the level of service that the city is providing. And I think that is a testament to the work that the staff has done, particularly when I think about most of, or at least a good part of the community working from home. I'm very thankful for the level of connectivity that we have within the city to allow us to do that. And I think some of that is because of some of the decisions that we've made in the past, franchise agreements and things like that. So I'm definitely very thankful. I wish that everyone, stay safe. I know that this challenge is not over. We have other areas of the country who have not proceeded as aggressively as we have. So we are going to be extremely vigilant over the next few months to make sure that when we get behind this, it doesn't come back to haunt us again. So thanks again.
Thank you. Next, Councilmember Emid has her hand.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor Renner. And I just want to join the chorus of appreciation for all of the coordination and communication that city staff has displayed. I was just looking at a statement by Leon Rockingham, who's the president of the Illinois Municipal League. And he made a letter public in his request for a community disaster loan program. And he said, I can personally attest to the commitment of the 1,298 cities, villages, and towns throughout Illinois to respond to the continued needs of our residents during this emergency. But he also goes on to say that he's asking for support because it's true that municipalities have limited resources to absorb he says, an inevitable reduction in revenues that this economic crisis is going to cause. So that this balance is really important, and we certainly can't do it alone, but we need to be responsive. And I'm sure as many of you have received similar calls, I've had many calls from constituents, and folks are concerned about rent, they're concerned about survival, they're reaching out to just find out information. I've had people reach out about domestic violence issues, which has upticked slightly in the community, and folks, I know through a lot of my peers who offer aid for the mentally challenged, those who have mental health concerns, and I think even the normal among us have those concerns right now. Well, normal is the wrong word, but yeah, I'm just going to keep talking. That they also are getting a lot of responses from people in need. I also, as Council Member Bray said, I look forward to working together as a collective to come up with a mechanism for ensuring that we're being responsive to the needs of government while also responding to the very real needs of those in our community. And I'm heartened that we're breaking down silos with a lot of community organizations that typically did not work very closely together before now. They're really coming to this call and trying to share resources in ways that are unprecedented. I think that it's working, which is why some people are probably frustrated that it seems that we are continuing the social distancing, but that means it's working. That's good. Hang in there, because this is what the medical community is telling us we need to do. And this is my high school English teacher roots. Adrienne Rich wrote this great poem called Dreams Before Waking, and it ends, though your life felt arduous, new and unmapped and strange, what would it mean to stand on the first page of the end of despair? You yourself must change it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, I have several council members who you do not get seconds in terms of aldermanic comments. So there's only one person who has not spoken already, and that is a council member Painter.
Thank you. I keep hearing over and over again about these people that have all these needs, and I'm very concerned about that. So to meet that need, I would really like all of you that get these requests to start a running list of people, specific people, with their addresses, phone numbers, all of their contact information, and put it out to the entire council so we can hook them up with the services that they need. Because I believe that most of those services are out there to help them. So please, I mean, please, when you get these requests, give it to all of us and give us specifics, because that's exactly what we need to start working on the problem. Thank you.
And then just one last point, and then when in doubt, the township is supposed to help people who fall through the cracks. That's supposed to be a Bloomington
Right.
Townships.
But there are other things out there that people need help with as well. And I think we can help them get
That's
what
what I'm
they
saying.
need.
When in doubt, we can go that route. Thank you very much. At this point, we do not have an executive session. And so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Carrillo, second by Councilmember Painter. I believe she's got her hand up. Is that right?
No, Scott.
Okay, all right. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anybody
Aye.
opposed?
Delayed ayes.
Okay, thank you all so much. We are adjourned. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Gleason, and thank you, colleagues. Take care.
Bye.
Good night.
Everyone be safe.
Yes, stay safe.